Well, so by the way, this is the new thing, okay? So you've been notified
Yes.
that I am recording the session. Cool. So welcome to this Friendly Friday, and sure, Friendly Friday it is with our very friendly Yolanda that I've known for a number of years. And it even makes it more exciting for me today because actually I've decided, because Yolanda is a new entrepreneur, first time coming into the world, this just the beginning of this year, I'm actually going to make it a thing that I'm going to bring in new up-and-coming startup entrepreneurs onto the show every once in a while to also just share, because I just think it's amazing that you've taken the step. And yeah, wishing you all the success. But most importantly, thank you for joining us today, Yolanda.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And Yolanda joins us today from her company name called Fruitful Factory. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the mindset of leadership to build a successful organization. So just a quick intro to those that are listening, who Yolanda is. So I've just shortened it, so there's quite a lot more to this, but I'm sure she'll be also sharing some of the excitement around Fruitful Factory with us. So Yolanda has spent the last 17 years in the advertising industry in roles that served rather behind the scenes, but allowed her to gain invaluable agency insights and skills, not only in the operations of a business, but that of the people and the paramount importance of a healthy work and leadership environment. She built her career on the foundations of curiosity, integrity, respect, trust, and hard work that unlock the capacity to fostering countless business skills, people skills, and innovative leadership skills over the years. In the midst of cultivating these skills, Yolanda embarked on a master's dissertation journey. She's in the process of reposition her master's as a theoretical study. The topic focuses on organizational purpose, the discourse process of a sense of giving and sense making between management and employees, and how communication constitutes organizations. Yolanda studies stirring the realness of the social realities leaders and managers are shaping, and that is fundamentally responsible for the difference between a healthy and flourishing environment for the organization and the people, or that of a toxic environment and oppression in the workplace. Yolanda's motto is, I have the world in my heart and I'm setting out to change it. Well, I guess they say, Yolanda, you are never too old. So, and in your case, even though you are a little bit older than me, you absolutely look very young and amazing. So I'm sure you are about to change the world. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I feel 21 forever.
And you'll always be. That's just how I've known Yolanda since I've known her, met her in varsity, and that goes back almost 20 years. So yeah. It's been a long time. So cool. So let's talk a little bit about Fruitful Factory. What an interesting name, and what inspired this name?
Yeah, so thanks, Megan. Fruitful Factory is a very God-inspired company, and the name actually comes from Genesis 1 verse 28, which is be fruitful and multiply. I think a lot of people think when they hear that it's about having babies, but it's not.
And
yeah, definitely not in mind, but it is about, being fruitful with your gifts and your talents and all those kind of things. And as you bear the fruits, it actually feeds a multiple, like it multiplies. And also with the factory part also has a bit of a story. So when I was inspired on the 5th of January to start a company, I actually reached out to my friends and my family saying I have this great inspiration. And I asked for some ideas, and one of my best friends that's now living in the UK, Robin, actually sent a couple of options, and the one had factory in it. And I really liked that resonated, because for me, factory is about building. So it's building the people, building the organization. And then someone recently said that, people are the living building blocks of, for me, it's society, environment, culture, and all those kind of things. So it plays in quite nicely. So that was where the name came from. And it is to, speak into my whys, to speak into the hearts of people, for all of us to flourish and live at freedom, not freedom as in do what you want, but the freedom we created to live in, like, your unique value, bringing out your, like all your potential and purposes. So the company was also started to address the business problem of which research shows is still one of the biggest business problems in the world, and that is that of workplace environment. Now, I also have had experience in it, and it was laid on my heart to do something about it. So I did register.com because I am planning on going into the world. Because like I would say is, you can have the best seeds in the world, but if it's always the soil that determines the outcome. So it's basically, working with the leaders and management to cultivate and create that kind of soil which will then unlock it for the employees. And I focus on management and leaders because that's where everything starts. My research has shown that, everything can be traced back to management and leaders because it drips from the top: culture, vision, all those kind of things. So that is, kind of in a nutshell of where it came about and the problem. Yeah,
I love it. I just think it's so, one doesn't quite know what it's about. I think it makes me feel like my previous company where I was fresh, and the first thing everyone always asked me is, do I sell food, or is it food related? So I resonate completely with it.
Yeah.
But I love it that it's about, like, as you say, planting the seed. So let's talk a little bit then about your main purpose, because I'm guessing that's part of your main purpose. Because just going back to the value discussion, it's interesting. Just this week, I was on a call with a group of people, and one of the questions was, can you help me with my values for my organization? And immediately it was like, I don't think it's a discussion you should really be asking people. I think it's a discussion to have with your employees that need to live and abide by those. So very much, I completely hear you, because value is driven by internal staff, and bring their value to the party, because that will make them thrive. So let's talk a little bit about then your number one purpose for Fruitful Factory.
Yes. So it is very much, like where, like a lot of employees, also companies, what you also see in research is that they have their values and it's on the wall, it doesn't filter through. It's because management is not really living it. But in a bigger sense of where, like where I come in, because now this is also, it is very new. It hasn't been done the way it's done before, which is very exciting. I'm very excited to see, where the journey takes me. But one of my unique values and where I'm going to address things differently is that I will go in and do research within the company. So with top management. And because also what I found is that there's roots to symptoms. And a lot of time, companies are only focusing on the symptoms and not really addressing the roots. Like, for example, if your people say, I don't feel valued, and like instead of maybe going to speak to the employees to find out why, I see a lot of companies focusing on a process or implementing a process or a workflow, which doesn't address that. So I will go in and work with the management and leaders to, and just to also say, to give a bit of background why I identify both, is because you could be a leader without being in a management position, but you can also be management without being a leader. And ultimately, you want to become like a leader people want to follow. And, like even with this going into the roots will help even that, because a lot flows from, like I said, everything can be tied back to management, and a lot flows from the inside.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to touch on mindsets, but it's a case of that, so even dealing, because some of the things might be hard to acknowledge at first, or, to realize that some things that management, like their communication styles, not even just communication strategies, but the way you are speaking to the people, and as a manager speaking to the people, and even just the words that you use, you can phrase one sentence one way and it can bring out a toxic behavior or root. Whereas when you say the same thing, but you phrase it in a building up people, then you have a completely different reaction to it. So it's really going into the depths of those kind of things, like I mentioned, going into the root, but also helping management to sometimes identify when it's maybe something that they need to work
than a manager on. Do you do that?
Yeah. And I mean, like my research also shows that a lot of management with toxic behaviors, because also it's not necessarily a toxic person, it's just toxic behavior, which can be changed. Okay. And, like even it starts with awareness. And just also being open to really, like acknowledge that kind of awareness, because it's still going to be up to management and leaders to realize, okay, this is actually the reality we're facing. What can we do? And it's not something to be ashamed of. Like a lot of people don't even know that they necessarily have toxic behaviors,
course,
because
it's just how they were maybe managed, or vice versa.
But exactly. And also, like a lot of the research also shows that, a lot of where the toxic behavior comes from is from, like where the manager is perhaps insecure. It comes from insecurity or previous trauma, and even from a previous, maybe a toxic environment. So it's unearthing all those things, but of course in love and truth, because it's not to condemn people. It's just to
not to
bring
criticize,
things to the light.
just to grow.
Yes. Bring it to the light, and then you can work with healing. Like my job won't be to necessarily counsel people, but I would be able to say, this is a seed, this is what like the seed, and I'm partnering with people where I can say, okay, this person can help you, guide you through, if there's counseling or something like that. But it's just more about bringing awareness to the toxic behavior that is happening. And it's not always intentional. Like a lot of research also shows that some of the, like I mentioned, managers don't even know that they are exhibiting toxic behavior. But it's just really from the inside out, like working with them from the heart.
So so that's a great point, because I like the idea that you say some managers are leaders and some leaders are managers, and vice versa. And obviously not all managers are leaders, and we know this, but how to get the best out of them, because they're obviously, of course, in the positions they are. But in this whole thing, I mean, obviously what the intentions are that they have come from their history and their background, because that's human, that's what it is, that's how it is. But it's creating awareness, and as you've mentioned, and mindset, so what my next question to you really is, why do you believe that the mindset of leaders and having the right mindset for leaders and management help organizations succeed? Where does that come into your solution?
Yeah, that is a massive part, because just to quickly use an example is, and I've said this before to a CEO that I've been working with, is that, you can, if you still have like a mindset or a bit of a toxic mindset, that you, even when you speak healthy words, or it seems that you're trying to say the right thing, if it doesn't really come from inside, your actions and your words are not going to line up. But just to quickly go back to the mindset question, is I read a book from Simon Sinek called The Infinite Game. It is such a great read, and I actually will recommend it to everyone, especially in management and leadership. And he talks about the difference between an infinite game and a finite game. Finite game, you're trying to win. An infinite game is where you actually want to leave a legacy and make a difference. And in his book, he talks about, like having the mindset of leaders, of infinite leaders and finite leaders, and how it actually directly plays on the success of the company and the people. And it really allowed me to, even while I was busy with my purpose chapter and my master's, I was able to, based on with the foundation of that thinking, bring a deeper sense into my chapter of realizing that it actually all starts with the mindset of leaders and management. And that is how you would run the race, and, like your vision, how you would cast your vision and your just cause, as Samson calls it. And, and it also goes back to how you speak to people, because it comes from the mindset. So, like what I think a lot of management and leaders don't realize is that their words have the power to either break someone down or build them up. And like in that book also, well, sorry, I've already mentioned this, where he talks about like how it directly influences the success of the business. And he uses examples where, like people had to come in to rescue the company because it was run by a finite-minded manager. And even in that, it's, like you kind of need to know which game you're playing. I don't know if you want me to go into that, but just to briefly explain to the viewers as well, is like, like for example, the example that he uses in the book was Microsoft and Apple. So Microsoft kept on wanting to beat Apple, where Apple wanted to change the world. So Microsoft, because they kept on wanting to be better, like then depleted their resources and the will of the people, Whereas and that's the thing with finite and infinite games, is a finite game is like a soccer game. You have the rules, you have the players, you have the time. But life doesn't work like that. And with the infinite game is that any players can come, like no one says, well, in advertising, these are the parameters of what will make you the best company. So you can't, although there are finite games within an infinite game, when you do a project, like, your project will have a beginning and an end, but ultimately you want to fight that where it will leave the legacy and, like better the world. It's always about better the world and serving others and, like in the business for others. But that also comes down to the mindset where, like if you have a mindset, or if your management has a mindset of, we just need to make the business, need to make the numbers and very number driven, and not realizing that actually is a side benefit of when you leading with, like a great company with a great environment, money will like it's a natural reward almost of it. But it all starts with the mindset. And just to go back to the example that I used in the beginning is that, like, for example, if you say to your people, your mental health is extremely important to us. So that sounds like, yeah, they care. But then 2 days later, you decline someone's leave, who's telling you that, I'm falling over, I need days off. And they're like, no, actually, no, maybe we'll just take one. Or expecting those people to work through their weekends when they are actually busy dealing with the mental, like where they need to focus on their mental health, but then expecting them just to work through, like that weekend and stuff. And that, so you kind of, like where the newness comes in from what I'm going to do is I'm going to help go to the heart of the leaders where like you transform from the inside out. So your mindset naturally changes into that of, loving people and like really seeing the value in people. Yeah. And
so I think, like, so that lends to the next question, then talking about now the employees, because I mean, I know it's obviously very much orientated on what you do is working with leaders, but obviously there are ways of being considerate or actions that they need to be aware of when engaging with employees and building up employees. So I always like to get a couple of top tips out of our session. So the question then is, what are the 3 top tips or things organizations should know when dealing with employees to motivate and get the best out of them?
Yeah, it just on that, because it actually makes me smile every time someone says, get the best out of it. Because I also watched a global leadership summit where Simon Sinek was talking about his infinite game book. And he was saying, like, it's not like people aren't like a towel where you're trying to get the best out of them, like you inspire them. And what is the great definition, the difference between motivation and inspiration is that motivation is external factors and inspiration is where you tap into what's already in the person, to come out. But I would say, like for people dealing with, like to keep in mind when they deal with employees is, like that they're also people. Like very often it seems that organizations forget that they're seen as a resource, and even, just changing the words, not seeing them as a resource, like money is a resource, but actually seeing them that you're working with people's will. And one thing that I think is one of the biggest things is to love people. And love is a verb, so it's not necessarily a feeling, a good feeling, but loving them equally, because it's very like it's very easy to see when there's favoritism, and people feel it. People feel the favoritism. But it's really just, and also, like when you start loving yourself, like, going back to where leaders might feel insecure and stuff like that, working on those kind of things. When that starts healing inside of you, it naturally starts flowing out. Love naturally starts flowing out. And like, and while you're busy working on that, just to make the conscious decision of loving people, like and making them feel appreciated. Also, a lot of this, I feel this is one of the same topic, but when like a lot of times I see what happens is that people, management expects you, but that is their job, so they should be doing it. And then missing those little extra bits that the people are actually doing and not acknowledging it. So appreciation goes a far way. And also, once again, you will naturally start feeling that. You'll naturally start seeing the efforts people are actually putting in and not just expecting them to do their jobs, because they already are. And there's a lot, they actually are already doing a lot more than's needed, but it becomes a norm, so people don't see it. So it's acknowledging And even if it's the smallest thing, you know, like it could be the smallest thing, people will appreciate that, because we, you know, like we want a sense of belonging. Also, I think also dealing with employees and stuff, it's a case of for management to know that they are there to serve the employees. They're not there to micromanage and do the employee's job. Yeah, they're there to say, here is, you know, like to give the best tools, to give the best environment, and to say, what can I do to help you do the job I hired you to do? Because also a lot of time people are specialized and they're hired for their specialized fields, but then, you know, like it's management comes down almost to, I won't say to that level, but, you know, instead of paying attention to the stuff that they should be doing, the visions and the culture and all those kind of things, they go down to the employees to kind of say, oh, but, you know, like I would do it this way. And meanwhile, you know, like the employee can't really then operate at the natural best, because just because they do it differently doesn't make it wrong. And, you know, like you're there to encourage them and give them knowledge. And, you know, a great leader, you would hope for them to actually do a job better than what you can, because you're also not there to do everything. You know, like you can, you need to allow and empower them to do their job. And that also goes, that kind of falls into the third one, is where, you know, trust your employees and for what you've asked them to do. I'm like, they would operate in their boundaries. So it's not like, you know, free for all, you know, all these kind of do things illegally to get things done. But you give them boundaries and say, okay, cool. Well, this is the project I need you to do it the best you can, because we're not always, we don't work the same way. And it doesn't mean that the results aren't the same or even better. So I think those are the kind of things, you know, like just really operating in love and respect.
Awesome.
And
and I think something that just came to mind when you were talking through it is the thought that, you know, managers, there is a quote about it, and I'm not sure who said it, but I just know it's known, is that if you allow your staff to do their jobs and their jobs well, it makes you only look better. You know, that's the outcome, is you actually look better. So rather, like you say, allow them to, you know, if they have a better way of doing it, let them do it, you know, because at the end of the day, it's going to make you look better anyway. So absolutely, micromanagement is definitely, I think, very limiting for a lot of people. And as you say, you know, you're employing somebody with a skill set for a reason, let them use it. And if they bring something new to the party, you know, let everyone learn from it. So I love that. So I've got a few extra tips, but the key ones that I've kind of highlighted is well, the love part. I mean, that for me was quite important. I love the fact that you said that, whether it's acknowledge or, you know, just use the right words, is very important. Respect them because they're people, you know, there's an emotion involved, you know, we're all related, we all got family, some of us have kids, you know, there's going to be issues, we're all human, we have to go to dentists, we have to go to appointments, you know, so don't be fussy about things like that. Respect, people have time, and we'll always put the time back into it, because we do. And then lastly, you know, the sense of trust, that you there to rather guide and support than oversee and manage and micromanage. So love those tips from you for today, as kind of leadership looking over employees. So thank you for that. And then just on our last question today, although we could probably go on quite a lot longer, because it's quite an exciting topic, I must say. From a marketing perspective, it's quite important for me too, because it's very much about inside out, you know, and that's why I was quite strong about my opinion the other day when I said to the lady, you know, I think it's a project you need to do with your staff. So it doesn't help just putting your values on the wall, and it means nothing to nobody. So you said you want to change the world when I spoke to you just the other day, when you told me about your new business. One company at a time. So just tell us quickly, what is your next step and how do you see yourself doing this? Because you clearly don't have a wand. And at this stage, you're only one amazing person. But yeah, tell us what your plan is.
Yeah, so you know, like, and this is also something that I didn't touch in the beginning of the Fruitful Factory. It's also, I have a lot of specialized skills that I gained over the last 17 years. So you know, like I say, is my specialized skills and then my unique skills. Although my uniqueness plays into, you know, like there's new ways of doing things and that I would like to bring to the world, and, you know, just transform the way we business as we know it. But you know, like so you know, like I think with my specialized skills, which is like I can do tenders with my eyes closed. And a lot of people, like a lot of companies, like, we don't know where to start. So, so that's a skill where I can go in and advise and even help them with that. And, like I have systems thinking, systems administrator based workflows, processes, I can implement all those kind of things, but also be advisory or consultant in that. So how I see, because what I, like what I'm setting out to do is so unique and new that, like people might not even know really that they have a route that they need to address with. So in, like maybe, like where I get into companies doing, supplying my specialized skills, I can then also, like educate and make them aware of what else I can bring to them. But also I am busy with some exciting projects where it's bringing awareness to toxicity in workplace with people, how people, like, and in a way that people can resonate with it. And in that, like I feel that, like bringing awareness to it, like it will become evident that, oh, like we actually need this route. So, because everything is still so new, it's even new for me. I just know where I'm going. I've got a direction. And it will unfold, but I have, so I am busy working on things to bring awareness to toxicity in workplace. I am also, busy working on my introduction video and all those kind of things, and like just reaching out to the network that I have, but also through where they utilize my specialized skills, I can then just say, and in that do like a free consultation. So I will offer free consultation, even for people that are not companies that are not really toxic, but they have their values on their wall and they have their purpose on paper, but they're not really living it authentically. I can also come in and just help making that stick and making that authentic within the organization. And with that is, as you start with a company, so say it's a toxic company, you work with management, like they start doing the work inside out, and it starts flowing into the company. So it flows into the people, then the people work in a healthy environment, and they take that home, and then the home becomes healthy and flourishing, and people, become happy and purpose driven, fulfilled. And that's
very related, isn't it? Because if you have a bad day at work, what's the first thing you do? You go home and tell your husband or your partner, or
exactly. And then when you have dread waking up, you like dreadful, like, and that feeds into your home. So that's how I see, changing the world. And so it's like, I say it's the opposite of the COVID, like it will spread goodness everywhere.
You'll come up with a new name for it. It will be COVID. It's positive COVID.
I actually already have a name, but I'm calling it. Wait, I need to, because I have a visual in my mind, but now I might pronounce it incorrectly. I'll share it a bit later, because it's basically COVID backwards.
Okay, awesome. Dovik. Anyway, but no, Davok. Anyway, but John, good idea. Love it. And I wish you all the best on your journey. I know it's just a new beginning for you, and that's fantastic. And I know you will succeed because you've got great passion for it. I can see. And also, I think the experience that you've been in and having this purpose now just makes it so much more meaningful. And isn't it awesome when one day we wake up and we realize what our purpose is? So love it. So thank you so much again for joining me today, Yolanda. And
thank you for having me.
Thank you. And then, next week we're joined by Kim Knight from Kim Knight Coaching. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about positive mindset post-COVID. So, definitely post-COVID is something we all need to consider and react on, because I think the reality is now here. But great. Thank you for watching, everybody. And if you did like it, please like it and share it for us. And please, if you're an entrepreneur and you'd like to be on the show sometime, leave me all your details and I'd be glad to have you on board in the near future. Thanks again, then see you next week, same time, same place. Cheers, Yolanda. Ciao.
Bye-bye.